I downloaded Tinder because I was really bored and honestly, I was quite lonely. This was just last year when the whole covert thing finally started to die down a little bit. I'd actually used Tinder once before this and I've met some pretty decent people off the app, nothing special though nor out of the ordinary. The last time I used Tinder and the last time I'll ever use a dating app again. I met this blonde girl named Haley. She seemed okay at first, hence why I met up with her in the first place. I thought she was cute and I just really wanted someone to connect with. She seemed to really hit it off, so that's when we decided we should meet up. Let me just tell you now that she hit the fan and got absolutely crazy. You hear horror stories all the time about people meeting up with strangers from the internet that you never really seem to pay much attention to. Because, well, you think that things like this don't happen often and the likelihood of it happening to you is slim to none. Well, that's how I thought anyways. I figured we would just go out to eat or maybe catch a movie or something, but she wanted to come to my house instead. As a matter of fact, she insisted. I made up an excuse as to why we could hang out at my place. Really, it was because my house was a mess and also I just wanted to get out of the house myself anyways. She very bluntly explained to me that we couldn't hang out unless we were to hang out at my house. Look, I know I should have saw this as a red flag and I think part of me did, but I didn't pay enough attention to it. She was really pretty and I was lonely. I think she definitely used that to her advantage because she knew it too. I eventually caved in and I told her that she could come over, so we set up a time for her to come and that gave me just enough time to clean the house and to shower and get myself ready. She texted me when she got here and I let her in. It was extremely awkward at first and right away I thought that she looks a little different from the picture she had in her Tinder account. Couldn't tell if I was just overthinking or not, and I didn't say anything at first about it because I didn't want to be rude. I'm not all that attractive anyway, so I just kind of let it go and we started chatting. Things were going okay, and then she asked me if I had anything to drink, alcohol-wise, and I told her I had about a half-fifth of Jameson left in the cupboard. I excused myself to the restroom, and when I came back she was sitting on the couch with her drink in her hand. I saw that she had prepared a drink for me as well that was sitting on my glass coffee table. I really wasn't in the mood for alcohol, especially not liquor, so I grabbed a beer out of my fridge and drank that instead. About 3 or 4 beers later, I ended up drinking my mixed drink that she kept pressuring me to drink. In fact, I almost completely decided against drinking it just because of how bad she wanted me to. I had a paranoid OCD-like thought that it was certainly possible that she could have spiked my drink of something while I was using the bathroom, and I had a serious feeling to stay away from the drink she made me altogether, but I let it go eventually because the drunker I got, the more I realized how delusional I sounded to myself. She seems like a nice girl and we were getting along. She's fine, plus it didn't seem like there was anything in my drink, so I figured it was okay. Anyways, I drank it and I didn't feel much different until maybe about 10 or 20 minutes afterwards. But I just played it off as me being drunk and overthinking. After all, I am a lightweight and 6 shrinks is way more than enough to keep me pretty messed up. This is where things start to get really weird. The last thing I remember was we were sitting on the couch and I started feeling very strange. Started to feel fainty and very dizzy until I ultimately passed out completely. I had to have been out cold for at least 5 hours because I woke up with the ass crack with dawn, and what I discovered was nothing short of a nightmare. I was lying on my bedroom floor and I awoke in a terrified state of mind. I slowly started to piece together that something was horribly wrong, and I was still feeling weird from the drugs she had roofied me with. First thing I noticed was that my whole entire body was in serious pain, all the way from my neck to my arms and my back and my stomach too. I had bruises all over me and I had over 5 serious stab-like puncture wounds along with deep cuts in both of my arms and my stomach. I got up and I saw that my bed and that the floor in my room was soaked with blood and the walls as well. I about fainted again when I saw this, and I remember feeling like I couldn't breathe. I went to grab my phone to call the police, but I couldn't find it. Turned out that she had stole my phone and all 4 of my TVs that were in my house, along with some jewelry and some of my safes. I had over $20,000 in it. Looks all around my house, but nobody was in sight. My house was a complete wreck though. She destroyed windows, vandalized just about every room, and I mean she just completely demolished everything. I remember looking in the mirror at one point having a complete breakdown. I couldn't believe that any of this was real. I'm almost 100% positive that there was somebody else other than the girl that I met that was in on this. It's hard for me to even type this out, but my stomach had a really disturbing wound in which they used my blood to draw a pentagram on the wall of my bedroom with. I found one of my old phones in my dresser and I plugged it into the charger and I connected it to the Wi-Fi. So I could call a friend on FaceTime audio, so if you get the cops out to my house, and I just waited for them to show up. It's probably about 20 minutes if that. I don't know what the hell she drugged me with exactly, but it was reported as some sort of rare, extremely powerful tranquilizer. I gave all the information I could to the police, and I logged into my Tinder account on my old phone in hopes that the account would still be there so I could show the police. But of course they unmatched me and probably deleted the account, and I thought it would have helped much anyways because I'm pretty sure I was catfished. They never called the people who did this. I actually moved to a new house a couple of months back and I don't live in as much fear now. I also have security cameras and I have an ADT security alarm system set up now too, which I recommend everybody has if possible. It could save your life. I'd started using Tinder just a few weeks prior. I hadn't expected it to work, but within a short time it seemed to be proving fruitful. One day I saw this super hot chick right in my area. She was just my type and she had plenty of great photos on her profile. To my surprise, we matched pretty quickly. We started texting on and off throughout the week. She always took a while to respond, but I figured she was just playing hard to get because all of her texts were heavily flirtatious. Saying out-of-pocket things like, "Hey there, mister, man, you look pretty hot, wanna make out with me?" I really wanted things to go to the next level, so I played along. I pulled out all the stops using all the pickup lines, and with "I had you know I'm gonna take you out first, gotta treat a classy girl like you," right? Things got rather heated pretty soon. "How about I just give you a time and a place, and you just do me right? I'll be there eventually." After about a week, we traded phone numbers and I got her to agree to go out on a date. She said she really wanted to go to the movies. I didn't really care where we were as long as I finally got to meet her. I arrived at the theater around the start of the previews, but she'd already texted me that she was inside. I'm way up at the very top, hugs and kisses. When I made my way to the top row, I saw a girl sitting by herself. She didn't look exactly like the photos from her profile, but still she was cute. I figured it was just too dark in the theater to tell, and she had the right brunette hair. So I introduced myself on the steps. "Hey there, lovely mind. If I take a seat?" "Excuse me, who are you?" "I'm Aaron from Tinder." "I think you got the wrong girl." "Oh, my bad, sorry about that." I looked around the theater for another girl sitting alone, but there was hardly anyone in there. Well, there was nobody except her. She was waving at me from the other side of the row. Even in the dark, I could see enough as she flailed her arm around a hefty baggage of fat, flabby skin, jiggled around her elbow. Her waist bulged over the armrests of her seat, and she had about $50 of concessions cluttered around herself. And gulped and reluctantly walked over to her. I already knew I'd been severely catfished, but I put myself to just getting through the movie and then never talking to her again. "Hey, hot stuff, I'm high." Once I got close, I noticed even more disgusting details. She looked older and more wrinkled than my grandma, which just made all the folds of fat that much more numerous. She barely had any hair left on the top of her head except for a few greasy white wisps, but she made up for it with a scraggly beard nestled between a few of her chins. What I wanted to do was vomit, but I sat down. Despite myself, immediately she grabbed my hand from my leg and clenched it with an iron grip. She pulled me towards herself and whispered into my ear, "How do you like to go all the way tonight, baby boy?" "I don't know." "Or are you nervous, sweetheart?" "Not as bold as you are in your text." "Well, how about we start with a little kiss?" I wanted to leave so bad, but I was hung up on getting my money's worth out of the ticket. She was still squeezing the life out of my hand, licking her lips and letting food spill out of her mouth. I don't think so. How about we just enjoy the movie? Oh, come on, aren't you a player? Get over here. She puckered up and pulled me in even further. I tried to wriggle myself free, but she grabbed my face with her other hand and held me still as she kissed me with her funyun breath. She forced her way into my mouth and then bit my tongue. When I tasted blood, something juiced me with extra adrenaline. I punched her in the face and jumped out of my seat. But something was still biting my tongue, pulling it out of my mouth and hanging off my chin. I looked down. It was her dentures, yellowed and covered in food and still clenched onto me. I ripped them off and threw them to the floor. Out of grabbing distance, I looked back at her, utterly stunned. Where are you going, baby boy? She tried to stand up, knocking several empty snack cartons onto the floor, but she didn't get anywhere. She was wedged into her seat by the girth of her hips. It was like watching a train wreck. I couldn't look away when she finally twisted and heaved herself out of the seat. She immediately collapsed to the floor, then started crawling towards me, rambling on intelligible gibberish. She didn't get very far before she got stuck in the cramped space of the aisle. Suddenly she started screaming in rage, kicking her feet hopelessly and swiping at me with her meat hooks. You really let yourself go? How embarrassing. I couldn't stand to look at her any longer. I got the heck out of there before anyone else showed up. And really, I needed to get home and wash my mouth out with bleach. I'm a 26-year-old female, and at the time I was 23 and in college. I used Tinder throughout the second half of my college years. I wasn't exactly looking for a long-term relationship, but I also wasn't entirely avoiding it either. If things seemed more serious, then I'd try, otherwise we just have some fun and move on. After school on Friday, I went back to my dorm and sat in bed swiping left and right on the app. I was hoping to have something to do over the weekend. After some time, one of the guys responded. We talked it up for an hour or so, then he asked me out on a date for Sunday night. I agreed, though it was rather quick to ask me out. We texted for a while longer, mostly about school and hobbies. He said he went to the same school as me but was in the dorm building on the opposite side of the campus. Anyway, on Saturday we texted back and forth a few more times, and come Sunday, I met him at a popular restaurant not far from the campus. Over dinner, he didn't strike me as anything but a normal person, so normal that he was almost a little boring. I found him attractive though, and thought he was maybe holding back on a lot due to just meeting me once. We finished, we went outside and set another date for the next week. As I said goodbye and started walking away, he asked me if I needed a ride home. Living in the dorms at the campus, I didn't have a car, so I just walked everywhere, including the restaurant. I was surprised he even had a car since he lived at the school as well, but I was even more surprised that he offered me a ride. It seemed like he was trying to make his move for tonight, which I wasn't expecting. But seeing as I enjoyed my time with him and he was just like any other guy, I took him up on the offer. The campus was a 25-minute walk away, so if nothing else, at least I'd be back sooner. He showed me over to his car, which was just an older black Honda SUV. I got into the passenger seat and he started driving. As soon as we were on the road, things started to get awkward. I tried making small talk, but he wasn't really responding, so I sat back and neither of us talked. After a few minutes, he took a left turn. The campus was to the right in the complete opposite direction. I felt a lump in my throat and my body got stiff. That feeling of something awful about to happen had fallen over me. Hey, I think you missed the turn, I said nicely, trying to hide any hint of fear in my voice. No, he muttered. I was looking over at him, but his gaze was locked on the road. Where are you taking me? He didn't respond. I didn't know what else to ask. I told him to let me out of the car in one last effort to get out of the situation without anything escalating. He still didn't respond. The further out he drove, the more remote the area became. My head was aching from the fear of getting too far out to be able to find any way out of this. I still have my phone in my pocket, which I knew he was going to take as soon as we stopped wherever he was taking me. My only plan was to try to take out my phone as quickly as possible and dial 911 before he would have time to react. I waited until he started making a turn and right when he looked the other way. I pulled my phone out and with shaky hands dialed 911. He noticed immediately, trying to grab my phone mid-turn and jerking the car. I was able to keep myself away from grasp while the phone rang, and as soon as I heard a voice on the other side, I yelled for help, saying the street names and direction we were going. The man was still fighting me for my phone, hitting me and pulling me toward him. In the midst of the fight, he lost control of the car and ran off the road straight into a speed limit sign. I was dizzy and my vision was blurry, probably from a concussion, but I could hear the operator on the phone talking from somewhere under my seat. I almost forgot the situation I was in, but once it came back to me, I immediately looked over. The windshield was shattered and the airbags were out, but the man I was with was gone. I tried to see out the windows, but he was nowhere. I didn't even remember seeing the windshield shatter where the airbags go off, so I might have even been unconscious for a few seconds or minutes. Without knowing it, I searched for my phone, telling the operator what happened and that I was okay. Officers came soon after. I had no lasting injuries, just some pains around my body, but what hurts the most is that I was so sure they would catch the man, having his name, description, and license plate. But I was wrong. The car was stolen the day before, which was probably why he abandoned it after the crash. His name was likely fake, although it was a really generic name anyway, and his Tinder account was removed, so all they have is a description of what he looked like. I should have been more careful, and I definitely have been ever since. What he planned on doing with me is something too awful for me to even think about. I just really hope that he's not out there trying to do the same thing to someone else. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.